The Fourth Floor on the Five Reasons YouTube channel, an extension of Five on the Floor. I'm Ethan Skolnick. I'm joined today by Brady Hawk, Jonathan Romlicon, and Ricky J. Mark. We are sponsored, as always, by our friends at Biscayne Bay Brewing, the official beer of the Five Reasons Sports Network and of the Miami Marlins. You can find it at FTX Arena at the 100 level and the 300 level. They got the Tropical Bay IPA there. You also can find it at many of the local supermarkets in town, including Whole Foods, and at many of our sponsors, including Quarter Deck. So it's great beer. Check it out. And it's locally brewed. Support local. Biscayne Bay Brewing. We're also going to be running, through the Biscayne Bay Brewing account, we're going to be running an NCAA tournament pool. It's coming up starting next week. Also sponsored by our friend Mark Brown, marcbrownpa.com, the man with the plan. He has a plan for you if you're looking to make sure that your money goes to the right place. So if you're young with a family, I would especially recommend this. Jump on this now. We'll get you all the forms. We'll go through it with you. It is not as expensive as you think, and he's incredibly, incredibly qualified to do this and has a great little small office there just north of Cypress Creek Road off of Andrews in North Lauderdale. The phone number, 954-566-5678, 954-566-5678. Mark Brown, MARCBrownPA.com. All right, let's get to tonight's game. Miami Heat coming off a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We got Brady Hawk and Alex Toledo at the arena tonight. I am not, so can't blame me. But there is a pretty interesting who's in, who's out report today, Brady. Go.
Yeah, no Jimmy Butler with that big toe keeps springing up, ironically, on the back end of a back-to-back. Caleb Martin's out. Victor Oladipo's out. I don't think he'll play any back-to-backs the rest of this season. P.J. Tucker was interesting because they marked him as questionable right as the time Markieff Morris is returning, which is the big name. They said P.J. Tucker was kind of planning to play and go through warm-ups, but I still feel not 100% about that. Like, even though they're saying he's going through warm-ups and he might play, I think at the last second you may see him possibly not play, but obviously it's trending in the good direction. But the big thing, obviously, Markieff Morris being able to play. They're a little thin with looking at this injury report, but still, if you go through a 9-man rotation, it's a legitimate 9-man rotation that they could possibly tonight have a bench unit of Gabe, Tyler, Markieff, and Dedmon if PJ plays. That if you're shorthanded and you have that type of bench unit out there, that just shows the depth of this group.
All right, we're going to get to the tactical elements of this in a second and who plays, who doesn't, because I do think they may have a little bit of a problem against Anthony Edwards tonight without most of their best defensive wings, or maybe arguably their three best defensive wings. But let's just go through the planning here, because it does seem like some of this is orchestrated a little bit. I'll start here with you, Ricky. I mean, I'm not stunned Jimmy's not playing tonight because he just has missed a lot of time this season. But we've also talked about PJ maybe taking some nights off, that this may start to happen a little bit, particularly when Morris was back, whenever that was. We know that Oladipo, this is the plan. I would not expect him. There's two more back-to-backs after this. I would not expect him to play in both ends of either of those. But what's your general feeling here? This team is 2.5 games up in the Eastern Conference on the idea of it does seem like they've entered into at least partial rest mode with certain guys. Oh, Mike.
If it's not the camera, it's the mic these days. The thing is, I think with Miami right now, to kind of piggyback off of what I said, I think it was yesterday. I think we had a pregame show yesterday. I think it's important to shoot for that number 1 seed, but it's not worth it if you've got no one left by the time you get there. So this is honestly just prudent planning on the Heat's part. At this point, like you said, Victor Oladipo not playing back-to-backs, that's common with anybody coming back from injury. So for anybody out there that is concerned about, rest your players, and then all of a sudden, why are you resting these guys? Well, this was the plan. This was the plan all along. Miami's training staff has always appeared to be, in hindsight, on the right side of history in terms of preserving their players, and they've learned, especially from some of the mistakes of other coaches. For example, that guy up at Madison Square Garden who plays his guys into the ground, that I'm sure Jimmy is very well familiar with. But I think right now, when you look at the way Miami is set up, there are going to be games that are going to be played that you might wonder, why aren't we going full bore on this? But then when you look at the big picture of the whole situation, the most important thing is getting to the end of the regular season in one piece. PJ Tucker's knee has been giving him issues. We've had quite a few injury scares from him where he's missed the rest of games because of a tweak here and there. These things happen when you're dealing with an older roster, especially considering your main guys, Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler, have had have quite a bit of tread on their tires. You're trying to preserve them. So I think ultimately, when you're going down the stretch of this and the rest of the season, look, you know that Brooklyn is not going to have Kyrie Irving for most of the rest of the season. Philly is going to be questionable at best. We don't know what's going on. Maybe James Harden's hamstring, the same one that's gotten him out of both Houston and Brooklyn, might act up again. Who knows? There are a lot of question marks in this Eastern Conference, but ultimately Miami has earned the right to do this, especially through playing through a variety of different injuries for about 60% of the season thus far.
Well, Jonathan, let's get to the tactical elements of this now, because Anthony Edwards is a monster, and we saw that against Miami last time. His team's playing very well, actually. I mean, they're not in danger of slipping out of the play-in or anything like that. I mean, they're going to be in the mix here. You don't have Jimmy, you don't have Caleb, and you don't have, I mean, you haven't had them all season until recently, but you don't have Oladipo. So it does create some different challenges tonight.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple different challenges. As far as guarding them, we can't allow Bam to overly switch out as well, because then we know Karl Anthony Towns is just going to dominate on the inside. If PJ doesn't play, it's going to be really tough for us to have that ability to maybe start PJ on Anthony Edwards, and then you switch him with Bam when they run that little pick and roll. But if PJ doesn't play, that might be something that's a little tougher to do. So schematically, tonight is going to be a lot harder. We're going to have to probably go to maybe a couple of different types of zones. I can see Gabe Vincent just pestering him, 3/4 court. But I think it's going to be a team defense-oriented night. I think the main two biggest things the Heat cannot do is turn over the ball to an uber-athletic team and give up second-chance points to a team that was already going to be tough to defend.
Yeah, and we saw that up there, Brady, that they struggle with Minnesota's athleticism a little bit. Now let's transition to Markieff Morris here, because when we started the season, we talked about the idea that, I mean, he was going to be the backup four. In fact, there were some people who thought he might be the starting four. I never thought that was the case. It was always going to be PJ Tucker. But he started to round into shape a little bit, literally and figuratively, before the confrontation with Jokic. It's going to take him a little bit of time, I would think, to get back. But he has been getting into shape for a while. It was just a clearance issue. So what is reasonable expectation for him tonight?
Yeah, I just don't know how many minutes he's going to get, what the restriction. He didn't mention any restrictions, but I just wonder how they're going to treat it. They said he was in game shape, like he's been working for weeks behind the scenes in contact. That I don't expect, major rust, but it's totally different playing at the NBA level. Right before he was injured, he was rounding into shape, and it was like we would sit here at games and we'd be like, "Don't take the three, Markieff Morris," because it felt like every time he shot a mid range at that elbow, it was going in. That's how much he was rolling at that time. So what I expect is that when he first went out, there was some issues that they had no mid-range threats. Like it was Tyler and the pull-up threat, but as a straight big that can pull up in the mid-range, Caleb's not that guy. Dedmon's not that guy. They missed that for some time. So I'm interested to see how they work that back in. I think that's going to be kind of his home. He's going to work the mid-post, maybe work some post splits and just see what happens. But I don't expect them to be holding back a ton. If he's in the 9-man rotation and they're holding these veteran guys out and let him play, I think he's going to be a full go, and they're just going to kind of work everything through him and see how he responds.
And whether Tucker plays or not, remember, he has hit the wall a little bit. He was a plus last night, but 28% from three over the past month. So there's been some regression to the mean here. All right, we're going to get into the picks. Before we do, I want to mention prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, FIVE. Get your initial deposit matched. Put down $100. They'll give you $100 to play with. You put down $50. They'll give you $50. And you don't have to play it all at once. You can play on the NHL as well if you want to play that. And the NCAA tournament coming up. You're certainly going to want to play Prize Picks for that. So go to prizepicks.com. Use that code FIVE. Always check the board with the Heat late, because we know that things change very close to game time. All right, Brady, I'm going to let you get out of there, so I'll let you go with the first pick, and then we'll swing it around.
Yeah, I think if Minnesota had Beverly, because he's doubtful tonight, it would have been the perfect matchup to run Lowry and Gabe together, just because of the smaller backcourt. But it could go back and forth. It's going to probably be Gabe or Max. But there is one veteran that is playing, and his name is Kyle Lowry. And he has had a ton of time off, obviously, so he's not going to be one of these guys. But as Bam said in the postgame last night, maybe take more than 4 shots. Now you don't have Jimmy there. You don't have all these other guys there. It's going to be a lot of young play. We're going to focus on Tyler and Bam. But I'm just interested to see Kyle maybe get going in a way that we haven't seen as of late offensively with the scoring-wise. We know how much he impacts the offense. But just seeing a stat sheet last night where he's 1 for 4 from the field, but he's also 1 for 4 from 3. He's not getting inside the teeth of the defense and making plays around the rim. So I'm kind of looking at that. I think that the Bam's comments and everything leading to it with all these veterans out, that we may see a big-time Kyle performance. But this is just a very explosive Minnesota team, so I think it's going to be interesting. I think this is one of those games that goes late in the game. It's going to be really close. But Miami pulls it out late just with Kyle fourth quarter heroics.
All right, Brady, get out of here. Thanks for joining us today. Jonathan, 10 shots for Kyle Lowry over the past 3 games. I understand it takes a little bit of time to work your way in. The fact that Bam Adebayo, of all people, called him out for not shooting enough last night, I was taken aback by that. They need a Kyle game tonight, don't they? I mean, everything seems to point to that.
Yeah, they absolutely need a Kyle game with no Jimmy, with no spark plug and Caleb coming off the bench. And PJ right now with his legs, if he's not going to continue to shoot the way he's been shooting all season long, he's not going to be the perfect guy next to Bam as of this moment until he gets a little more healthy. So I think it's going to be necessary for Kyle Lowry to really slow the game down and dictate the tempo, because we've seen a lot of times when we don't have Jimmy Butler, other teams can come in, they can focus on just running us out of the building, and we have no way of slowing that game down, and we don't really have a guy that's a go-to guy to get to the free throw line. Kyle Lowry was that guy last year and for many years as a Toronto Raptor. So I look to him to just be more aggressive, kind of get to the paint a little bit more, draw some free throws, slow the game down. I know he likes to push the pace a lot, but sometimes he needs to kind of dial that back, especially against a younger team in Minnesota. Honestly, I don't see us winning tonight's game. Maybe hopefully it's a reverse jinx, right? But I think it's just a really tough position for us to be in unless Bam is just that center, that center hub that he can make the defense respect him, and then make the defense respect him enough that off-ball cutters and the off-ball movement can be enough to beat the team. I think we have a really tough time in winning. I think this is the first time I actually don't pick the Heat. And you're muted.
Maybe the first time in the history of this show that caused me to mute because I was so stunned by it. I'm actually with you tonight. I don't really love their chances. I think one of the issues is that Kyle likes to push pace, like you said, particularly when Jimmy's not in there. And I don't know that is the best way to go against this team. Ricky, you take us home.
Yeah, he's welcome to push pace, but you're dealing with a young and athletic Minnesota Timberwolves team. So I don't see that happening tonight. I mean, Miami has some of the players that have gotten them victories in the past, but it's going to be tough. I don't see it. I'm happy to have been wrong last night, but this time around, I'm not sure. This might be one of those like, okay, we'll play as hard as we can, but we're not going to overexert ourselves. We want to see what Morris has. If he gives us enough, great. We'll just work him into the rest of the game, the rest of the season, and then just go from there. But ultimately, I think Miami probably doesn't pull it out. However, it's looking good for them for the rest of the season, provided everybody stays healthy. So don't stress too much about tonight. Focus on the fact that the Miami Heat are still, I think, about, 2 games ahead of everybody else in the East, 2.5 games ahead of everybody else in the East, and it looks to stay that way with all of the chaos happening elsewhere. Miami's going to be just fine.
Royal is calling us gutless. I will say who does have the guts. Royal will be on the post-up 5 hours
Well, I've
tonight.
lost 20 pounds, so you're right, Royal. Right.
You've lost the gutless. I will say this: we're the only post-game show in town tonight, so make sure you check us out. So we do have a Gut Saturday on the YouTube channel.
Post-game show.
Pace it. I'm not adding to that. Pace and space at halftime. Post up 5R after the game. Probably no 5 on the floor tonight, but there will be a 5 on the floor tomorrow. And of course, subscribe to Off the Floor, our special channel. We've been giving you stuff during the game that you're not getting anywhere else. So check that out. You can get it through 5 Reasons Twitter. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks, Alejandro, for producing.
And check out the post-fight show as well. Thank you.